The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as Marcus Reed rushed through the maintenance corridor of the stellar dawn. Red warning lights cast an eerie glow across his face as he checked his tablet one more time. Something was wrong with the ship's core systems, but it wasn't what everyone thought. He wasn't the saboteur. He was trying to prevent the real disaster from happening. Warning: unauthorized access detected in Engineering Section B, the ship's AI announced through the speakers. Marcus ignored it. He had 10 minutes, maybe less, before security found him. His fingers flew across the control panel as he tried to trace the source of the real problem. The diplomatic vessel Stellar Dawn was humanity's pride, carrying Earth Coalition representatives to a crucial meeting with the Archean Empire. Marcus had noticed the subtle changes in the ship's power grid 3 days ago. Small fluctuations that nobody else caught, but he knew better. Someone was siphoning power to mask something bigger. A door hissed open behind him. "Don't move." Heavy boots thundered against the metal floor. "Hands where we can see them." Marcus slowly raised his hands, still holding his engineering tablet. "Listen to me," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Someone's tampering with the main reactor. If we don't—" "Shut up." The security chief, a burly man named Adams, stepped forward. "We caught you red-handed, Reed, accessing restricted systems during a diplomatic mission. The Archeans are calling for your head." 2 guards grabbed Marcus's arms, their grips tight enough to bruise. His tablet clattered to the floor, the screen cracking. "You don't understand." Marcus tried again. "Check the power readings in section." A sharp punch to his stomach cut off his words. Marcus doubled over, gasping. Through watering eyes, he saw Captain Reynolds enter the corridor, his pristine uniform a stark contrast to Marcus's oil-stained coveralls. "Engineer Reed," Reynolds said, his voice cold. "The Archean delegates are demanding immediate action. We can't afford a diplomatic incident, not when we're so close to the trade agreement." He paused, studying Marcus with empty eyes. "Fortunately, we're passing near Outpost 219. It's an abandoned refueling station. Perfect place for a saboteur to disappear." Marcus's blood ran cold. "You can't do that. It's illegal. I have rights." "Rights?" Reynolds laughed. "We're in contested space. Reed, the only law here is what keeps the peace." He nodded to the guards. "Take him to the shuttle. Make it look like he stole it." They dragged Marcus through the ship's corridors. Crew members turned away as they passed, no one willing to meet his eyes. His mind raced. The captain was making a mistake, or worse, was part of whatever was really happening. The shuttle bay was cold and empty when they arrived. A small maintenance shuttle waited, its hatch open. One of the guards shoved a small pack into Marcus's chest. "Emergency rations, 3 days' worth, more than you deserve." "My engineering kit," Marcus said quickly. "At least let me take that." When the guards hesitated, he added, "You're already leaving me to die. What difference does a few tools make?" Adams grunted and motioned to one of the guards, who retrieved the worn toolkit from a nearby storage locker. They threw it into the shuttle after Marcus, along with his personal AI assistant unit, a small device he'd modified himself over the years. "Hope it was worth it, Reed," Adams said as they sealed the hatch. "Whatever the Archeans promised you." Marcus wanted to scream in frustration. Through the shuttle's viewport, he watched as the stellar dawn grew smaller, its elegant form disappearing among the stars. The shuttle's autopilot was locked, its course set for the looming shape of Outpost 219. The station was massive, a relic from an ancient species humans called the predecessors. Its dark metal frame stretched for kilometers, solar arrays spread like tattered wings. Most of its sections were dark, power long since failed. As the shuttle approached, Marcus could see the decay, hull plates missing, exposed framework, and the scars of old battles. "No one survived here more than a week," Adams's voice crackled through the shuttle's comm. "The life support systems failed decades ago. Most areas are exposed to vacuum. Do try to make your death look accidental. Saves us the paperwork." The comm went dead. Marcus watched in silence as the Stellar Dawn's engines flared to life, the ship accelerating away into the darkness. Soon it was just another light among the stars, leaving him truly alone. The shuttle's autopilot guided it into a partially functioning docking bay. Ancient mechanisms groaned as emergency airlocks engage. Marcus checked his suit's oxygen levels. 6 hours at most. Not much time to find a safe zone, if one even existed. He gathered his meager supplies, the emergency pack, his toolkit, and his AI assistant. The pack contained basic rations, a water recycler, and a simple medical kit. Not enough for long-term survival, but it would have to do. "Jack," he said, activating his AI assistant, "run a scan of the immediate area. Let's see what we're dealing with." The small device hummed to life, its holographic display flickering in the dim light. "Scanning," Jack's artificial voice responded. "Detecting minimal power signatures. Emergency systems are operating at 3% capacity in this section. Atmosphere is thin but present. Temperature is -15 degrees Celsius." Marcus took a deep breath, fighting down panic. He was an engineer. He'd studied every type of technology humanity had encountered, including fragments of predecessor tech. If anyone could survive here, it was him. But first, he needed to understand what had really happened on the Stellar Dawn. He pulled out his toolkit and began modifying Jack's scanning range. As he worked, his mind wandered to the power fluctuations he detected. They weren't random. They had a pattern, one that reminded him of old Earth military protocols. Someone was using the diplomatic mission as cover for something bigger. "Jack, compile all the data we collected about those power fluctuations. There has to be a connection." Marcus adjusted his suit's temperature as he worked. "And start mapping this section of the station. Look for anything that might help us survive." "Processing," Jack responded. "Warning. Multiple structural weaknesses detected in surrounding areas. Recommend careful movement." Marcus nodded, closing his toolkit. He had 6 hours of oxygen, a handful of tools, and an AI assistant. Somewhere on this massive station, there had to be answers, both to his survival and to what was really happening on the Stellar Dawn. He took one last look at the shuttle, knowing it would never fly again. The autopilot was locked, its systems already shutting down. This was it. This abandoned station was either going to be his tomb or his salvation. "Well," Marcus said, forcing confidence into his voice, "let's see what secrets you're hiding, old station." He stepped through the airlock, the sound of his boots echoing in the vast, empty corridor beyond. Above him, ancient lights flickered weakly, as if the station itself was acknowledging his presence. The real question wasn't whether he could survive. It was whether he could survive long enough to prove his innocence and uncover whatever plot he'd stumbled into. But first, he needed to breathe. One step at a time, one problem at a time. That's how engineering worked, and that's how he would stay alive. Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he carefully connected 2 power conduits. He'd been working for hours, his oxygen supply now down to 2 hours. The station's corridors stretched endlessly in both directions, most of them dark and cold, but this section showed promise. "Jack, how are the power readings looking?" he asked, connecting the final wire. His AI assistant projected a holographic display. "Power flow detected. Minimal, but stable. The crystal core seems responsive to the bypass." Marcus smiled. The discovery of the crystalline power cores had been pure luck. He'd recognized their design from his advanced engineering courses, prototype technology that Earth scientists had only theorized about. But here they were, actual working examples. A soft hum filled the air as ancient systems stirred to life. Lights flickered on, illuminating a vast chamber he hadn't been able to see properly before. The room was filled with rows of machinery, covered in years of dust, but otherwise intact. "Atmosphere processing starting," Jack announced, detecting increased oxygen levels. Air quality at 40% of human-safe standards and rising. Marcus checked his suit readings. Keep monitoring. Let me know when it's safe to remove my helmet. He moved deeper into the chamber, examining the machinery. These aren't just life support systems. Look at the configuration. They're processing something else too. He brushed dust off a control panel, revealing symbols he didn't recognize. The predecessor's writing was still largely a mystery to humans, but engineering had its own universal language. Pipes, connections, flow directions. These told him more than any translation could. Jack, start mapping these systems. I need to understand how they're connected. Marcus pulled out his tablet, grateful he'd managed to repair it. As he worked, the air steadily improved. After 30 minutes, Jack confirmed it was safe to remove his helmet. The first breath of station air was stale but breathable. Marcus inhaled deeply, savoring the ability to breathe freely. He had bought himself some time, but he needed to do more than just survive. Moving through the newly powered section, Marcus discovered more about the station's layout. What he had initially thought was a simple refueling station was revealing itself to be something far more complex. The fuel processing systems were there, yes, but they were only a cover for something bigger. Jack, look at this, Marcus said, standing before a massive sealed door. These markings, they're different from the maintenance sections. More like military signs. Analyzing patterns, Jack responded. Confirmed. Similar symbols found in recovered predecessor military installations. This appears to be a security checkpoint. Marcus ran his hands along the door's edge. Can we power it? Negative. This section requires separate authorization. However, I'm detecting another power core chamber nearby. Restoring power there might give us access. They made their way through the station's maze-like corridors. Marcus marked their path using his tablet, creating a crude but useful map. Every few meters, he noticed more signs that this station wasn't what it appeared to be. Reinforced walls, hidden sensor arrays, and what looked like weapon mounts, all carefully disguised as ordinary station equipment. The second power core chamber was smaller but better preserved. Marcus recognized the crystal configuration immediately. It was nearly identical to theoretical designs he'd studied in his advanced engineering courses. These crystals, he muttered, carefully examining one. They're not just power sources. They're data storage too. The whole station must be. Jack, can you interface with them? Attempting connection, Jack said. Warning. Detecting automated defense protocols. Dormant but intact. Marcus paused. Defense protocols meant weapons, security systems, maybe even automated combat units, if he could restore power without triggering them. Hours passed as Marcus worked, carefully connecting systems and bypassing safety locks. He used every trick he knew, combining human engineering with what he understood of predecessor tech. Slowly, more of the station came alive. Power restored to adjacent sections, Jack announced, detecting multiple automated systems coming online. Defense grid activating in standby mode. Marcus held his breath, but no alarms sounded. The station accepted his modifications, its ancient systems integrating with his repairs. More lights came on, revealing corridors and chambers he hadn't seen before. The sealed door from earlier slid open with a hiss of preserved air. Beyond it lay a sight that made Marcus's heart race. A central control room, its walls lined with displays and control stations. Most were dark, but a few flickered with residual power. Jack, are you seeing this? Marcus walked slowly into the room. This isn't just a control center. This is a command post. Affirmative, Jack replied. Detecting traces of a central AI system. Predecessor design. Far more advanced than my architecture. Currently dormant. Marcus sat at what appeared to be the main control station. The displays were covered in dust, but the technology beneath was intact. This was what he'd been looking for, a way to understand the station, to make it more than just a prison. The Archeans, he said suddenly. They knew about this place. That's why they were so quick to demand I be left here. They wanted to make sure no one discovered what this station really was. He began the delicate process of interfacing Jack with the station's systems. If he could wake up the dormant AI, combine it with Jack's more modern protocols. A distant rumble echoed through the station. Marcus froze, then checked the nearest display. Something was happening in the outer sections. Automatic repair systems were activating, sealing breaches and stabilizing damaged areas. Jack, what's our power situation? Main crystal core operating at 15% capacity. Secondary cores coming online. Station systems responding to authorized commands. Marcus leaned back in the chair, allowing himself a small smile. He wasn't just surviving now. He was understanding. This station, abandoned and forgotten, was a military command center disguised as a refueling post, and he had started to wake it up. But with understanding came questions. Why had the predecessors hidden such a powerful installation? What were they defending against? And more importantly, what had Marcus stumbled into with the Stellar Dawn and the Archeans? He pulled up more displays, searching for answers. The station's database was vast, filled with technical data and military protocols. Somewhere in all of this information was the truth about the station, about the Archeans, and about whatever plot he'd discovered on the Stellar Dawn. Jack, start a full scan of all accessible systems. I want to know everything this station can do. Marcus pulled out his engineering kit again. And let's see about waking up that AI. Something tells me we're going to need all the help we can get. The station hummed around him, its systems slowly returning to life. Marcus felt a strange sense of purpose replacing his earlier fear. He wasn't just an abandoned engineer anymore. He was becoming something else. The station's guardian, its caretaker, and maybe, if he was right about the Archeans, its defender. But first, he needed to understand. One system at a time, one secret at a time. The station had survived abandoned for centuries. Now it was time to make it live again. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus first arrived at the station. The control room had become his home, surrounded by humming machines and flickering displays. Empty ration packs were neatly stacked in one corner, the last remnants of what his captors had given him. But he wasn't worried about food anymore, not since he'd made his biggest breakthrough. Guardian, show me the hydroponic space status, Marcus called out. The station's ancient AI had awakened 2 days ago, after Marcus successfully merged it with Jack's systems. The result was something new, an AI that combined predecessor knowledge with modern adaptability. A holographic display appeared, showing rows of growing plants in what used to be fuel processing chambers, hydroponic systems operating at 78% efficiency. Guardian responded, its voice a strange mix of Jack's familiar tones and something older, deeper. First harvest estimated in 15 days. Marcus nodded, pleased with the progress. Converting the fuel processors had been a stroke of genius. The same systems that once refined spacecraft fuel now maintained perfect growing conditions for Earth crops, using mineral-rich asteroid water he'd discovered in forgotten storage tanks. And our defense systems. Multiple displays lit up, showing the station's vast array of dormant weaponry. Automated repair units have restored 60% of external defense platforms, Guardian reported. Shield generators are operational but running at reduced power. Internal security systems are active. The repair bots had been another lucky find. Hundreds of them had waited in sealed maintenance bays, perfectly preserved. Once Marcus reprogrammed them, they became his workforce, repairing damaged sections and reinforcing weak points throughout the station. A soft alarm caught his attention. Warning, Guardian announced. Unknown vessel approaching. Matching profile with Archean scout ship. Marcus moved to the main display, his heart racing. The ship was small, probably a long-range patrol craft. It wasn't the first to pass by, but it was the first to change course and head directly for the station. They must have detected our power signature, Marcus muttered. Guardian, what are our options? We can power down non-essential systems to appear dormant, Guardian suggested. However, they may have already detected signs of activity. Marcus considered his choices. Running and hiding wouldn't solve anything. Eventually, someone would investigate the station properly. Better to control that first contact. Keep all systems running, he decided. But power up the shield generators, just in case. The Archean ship drew closer, its sleek form visible on the main screen. After a few minutes, a transmission came through. Unidentified station. This is Scout Vessel Dawnseeker. Our records show this facility as abandoned. Explain your power signatures. Marcus took a deep breath and opened a channel. Dawnseeker, this is Outpost 219. We are conducting automated maintenance and repair operations. The station is under Earth Coalition Salvage Authority. It was a lie, but a careful one. Salvage rights were a gray area in contested space, and the Archeans knew it. There was a long pause before they responded. Send your salvage authorization codes. Marcus smiled. Processing your request. Please stand by. He muted the channel. Guardian, how are those fake authorization codes coming along? Code sequence generated, incorporating backdated timestamps and proper encryption. Ready to transmit. They had prepared for this, spending days studying salvage protocols and creating convincing documentation. Marcus transmitted the codes, then waited. The Archean ship hung in space, obviously analyzing the data. Authorization codes. Accepted, the Archean commander finally responded, though they sounded suspicious. Be advised, this sector is under Archean protection. Any military activity will be considered a hostile act. Understood, Dawnseeker. We are simply preserving this historical facility for study. The Archean ship lingered for another hour, scanning the station from different angles. Marcus watched them through the security feeds, noting how they paid special attention to certain areas. They knew something about this place, or at least suspected its true nature. Finally, the ship departed, but Marcus knew this wasn't the end. Guardian, they'll report this. We need to speed up our preparations. Agreed. Shall I activate the second wave of repair units? Do it. Focus on the defensive systems first, then the sensor arrays. Marcus pulled up the station's schematics, and let's start bringing the main weapon batteries online. Carefully. We don't want to draw attention if someone else scans us. The next few days were a blur of activity. Repair units swarmed across the station's exterior like metal insects, fixing hull breaches and restoring damaged systems. Inside, Marcus worked on integrating more of the predecessor technology with his modern equipment. The station was changing, evolving. What had been a dark, dead hulk was becoming something else, a hybrid of ancient power and new innovation. Marcus had found ways to improve the original systems, using his engineering knowledge to solve problems the predecessors hadn't anticipated. Marcus, Guardian called one evening as he worked on the shield generators. I've detected an encrypted transmission from the Archean ship to their central command. Would you like me to decrypt it? Can you do it without them noticing? Affirmative. The encryption is familiar, similar to patterns observed in the Stellar Dawn systems. Marcus stopped working. Show me. The decrypted message appeared on his screen. As he read it, his suspicions from the Stellar Dawn came flooding back. The power fluctuations he'd noticed, the strange patterns, they were all part of something bigger. They're preparing for something, he said quietly. The diplomatic mission was just a cover. Guardian, we need to accelerate everything. How quickly can we get the main systems combat ready? At current repair rates, essential combat systems will be online in 2 weeks. However, full combat capability will require additional time and resources. Marcus nodded, already planning his next moves. Prioritize the sensor arrays and communication systems. If the Archeans are planning something, we need to know about it. He paused, looking at the vast array of displays around him. And Guardian, start running combat simulations. We need to know exactly what this station can do if we have to fight. As if in response, the station's lights pulsed brighter. In the distance, he could hear the hum of power cores pinning up to higher levels, defense platforms shifting into new positions. The abandoned station was becoming a fortress, and Marcus was its commander, whether he wanted to be or not. He touched a nearby console, feeling the subtle vibration of power flowing through it. "They left me here to die," he said quietly. "Instead, they gave me exactly what I needed to stop them." Guardian's voice was calm but determined. "The station is ready to serve its original purpose again. We await your commands." Marcus smiled. The transformation wasn't just happening to the station. It was happening to him too. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was preparing for whatever came next, and something was definitely coming. The command center's lights dimmed as Marcus directed more power to the sensor arrays. Something big was happening in Archean space, and he needed to know what. Guardian had intercepted fragments of encrypted transmissions for days now, each one more concerning than the last. "Guardian, show me the fleet movements again," Marcus said, rubbing his tired eyes. A holographic display filled the center of the room, showing dozens of Archean ships moving in unusual patterns. "Analysis complete," Guardian reported. "Archean fleet movements indicate a gathering of forces in sectors 7 through 12. Ships are maintaining radio silence, but following precise patterns. Military formation probability, 94%. Marcus studied the display. He'd been on the station for 2 months now, learning its systems, rebuilding its defenses. The hydroponics bay provided fresh food, and the repaired life support systems kept him comfortable. But comfort wasn't enough anymore, not with what he was discovering. Cross-referenced these movements with the data we pulled from that corrupted storage crystal. The crystal had been another gift from the predecessors, containing tactical information about Archean military strategies. Even centuries later, their patterns hadn't changed much. New lines appeared on the display, showing probable course projections. Marcus felt his heart sink as the pattern emerged. They're positioning for a multi-sector strike. These aren't random patrols. They're setting up invasion corridors. Correct, Guardian confirmed. Primary targets appear to be Earth Coalition colonies in sectors 13, 14, and 15. Estimated civilian population, 12 million. Marcus slammed his fist on the console, and the diplomatic mission on the Stellar Dawn was just to keep Earth's forces distracted. He pulled up another display, showing the data they'd gathered about his old ship. "Guardian, scan these power readings again. Focus on the signature of that sabotage they accused me of." The AI processed the data quickly. Power fluctuations match known Archean communication protocols. Captain Reynolds was transmitting classified information to the Archean delegates. He wasn't just a corrupt captain, Marcus said quietly. He was their spy. That's why they were so eager to get rid of me when I noticed the power fluctuations. He paused, thinking. How many other spies do you think they have in the coalition? Based on communication patterns, I estimate at least 30 high-level infiltrators in key positions. The invasion plan appears to rely heavily on insider assistance. Marcus stood and walked to the main viewport. The station's external lights illuminated its defensive platforms. Dozens of weapon systems that hadn't existed 2 months ago, rebuilt from ancient designs with modern improvements. The shield generators were online, their invisible barrier ready to protect against any attack. A soft alarm sounded. "Warning," Guardian announced. Multiple ships detected entering the sector. Archean signatures confirmed. Scout fleet formation. "Show me." The display changed, showing 5 Archean warships approaching the station. They were larger than the previous scout ship, heavily armed, and clearly ready for combat. They must have analyzed the sensor data from the first scout, Marcus said. They know this isn't just a salvage operation anymore. He straightened his back, making a decision. Power up all defensive systems, but keep the main weapons hidden for now. "Marcus," Guardian's voice was cautious, "if we reveal our military capabilities, the Archeans will likely respond with greater force." "I know, but we can't let them report back about what they find here." not with their invasion fleet almost ready. He checked the station's status displays. How are those transmission interceptors working? Operating at full capacity. We can block their communications if needed. The Archean ships spread out, taking positions around the station. Their sensors probed the structure, trying to penetrate its defenses. After a few minutes, a transmission came through. Outpost 219. This is Commander Voss of the Archean Security Fleet. Your station has been identified as a potential military installation. Stand down and prepare for boarding, or we will open fire. Marcus opened a channel. Commander Voss, this is a civilian research and salvage operation. We have proper authorization. Your salvage codes have been invalidated. Voss interrupted. We know what that station really is. You have 5 minutes to surrender control. Marcus muted the channel and turned to a different console. Guardian, start the trace. Find out everything you can about their fleet positions and communications. The AI worked silently while Marcus watched the Archean ships maneuver into attack positions. Data streamed across his displays. Fleet movements, encrypted transmissions, tactical analyses. Piece by piece, the bigger picture emerged. Marcus, Guardian said urgently, I've decrypted their orders. This scout fleet is part of the invasion force. The main fleet begins its attack in 3 days. Can we get a warning to Earth? Negative. Long-range communications are being jammed. However, Guardian paused, processing. I found something else. The Archeans aren't just planning to invade. They're going to use the Coalition's own defense networks against them. Captain Reynolds gave them access codes. Marcus felt cold anger replace his fear. The station hummed around him, its ancient weapons ready to wake up. He thought about the 12 million civilians in the target sectors, about how many would die if he did nothing. Guardian, bring all systems to full power. Shields, weapons, everything. He opened the channel to the Archean ships again. Commander Voss, this is your final warning. Leave this sector immediately. Laughter came through the speakers. You're in no position to make demands. Opening fire in 3 minutes. Marcus smiled grimly. Guardian, show them exactly what kind of station they're threatening. The entire structure came alive. Hidden weapon ports opened along its length. Shield generators created visible distortions in space as they powered up to full strength. Targeting systems locked onto each Archean ship. By the stars, Voss's voice had lost its arrogance. What is this place? Your worst nightmare, Marcus replied, and your last chance to retreat. The Archean ship's weapons powered up in response. They had come ready for a fight, but not for this. Not for a fully armed predecessor battle station. Marcus watched them on his displays, his hand steady on the controls. He had 3 days to stop an invasion. 3 days to save millions of lives. 3 days to prove he wasn't a traitor. Guardian, begin recording everything. If we survive this, the Coalition needs to know what's coming. He paused, then added, and send a message to Earth's Defense Command. Use every frequency, every channel we have. Tell them. He looked at the approaching enemy ships, remembering how they had left him to die on this station. Tell them that help is coming from an unexpected place. The first Archean ship fired, its energy weapons flaring against the station's shields. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin, and it would start here, on a station that was supposed to be dead, commanded by a man who was supposed to be dead with it. Marcus smiled. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't just surviving. It was turning your prison into the enemy's downfall. Alarms blared throughout the station as Marcus watched the massive Archean invasion fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel. Dozens of warships filled his display screens, their weapons already charging. The scout fleet had failed to return 3 days ago, and now the Archeans had come in force. Guardian, status report. Marcus called out, his fingers flying across multiple control panels. Station defenses at maximum capacity. Shield generators at full power. All weapon systems online. Guardian's voice was steady. Enemy fleet composition: 1 command carrier, 32 heavy cruisers, 54 destroyer-class vessels. Marcus nodded grimly. The odds were overwhelming, but he had spent every minute since destroying the scout fleet preparing for this moment. The station hummed with power, its ancient systems now fully awake and enhanced by his modifications. "What about our message to Earth?" "Still being jammed," Guardian reported. "However, I detected coalition ships responding to our emergency broadcasts. Estimated arrival time: 40 minutes. Marcus did the math quickly. The invasion fleet would reach firing range in less than 5 minutes. He had to hold them off, had to give Earth's forces time to arrive. More importantly, he had to prevent the Archeans from activating their stolen defense codes. A transmission cut through his thoughts. "This is Admiral Krell of the Archean Empire," a cold voice announced. "Your interference ends now. Surrender the station, and we may spare your life." Marcus opened a channel. "Admiral, this is Marcus Reed. You know, the engineer you tried to have killed." He smiled as he activated targeting systems. "Here's my answer." The station's main weapons opened fire. Beams of energy lanced out, cutting through space with devastating precision. 2 Archean destroyers exploded immediately, caught off guard by the speed and power of the attack. "Impossible." Krell's voice was angry now. "All ships, open fire. Destroy that station." The space around the station lit up with energy weapons and missile trails. But Marcus was ready. The shield generators created overlapping barriers, their power drawn from multiple crystal cores. Archean weapons splashed harmlessly against them. "Guardian, execute attack pattern 3, Marcus commanded. The station's weapon platforms moved in precise sequences, targeting enemy ships with carefully planned strategies. Marcus had spent days programming these attack patterns, combining predecessor tactical data with his own engineering insights. More Archean ships exploded, but the fleet pressed forward. They began coordinating their attacks, concentrating fire on specific shield sections. Warning lights flashed on Marcus's displays. "Shield section C showing strain," Guardian reported. Diverting additional power, Marcus activated the station's point defense systems, another of his innovations. Thousands of small energy pulses filled space, intercepting incoming missiles before they could reach the shields. The Archeans hadn't expected this level of defense from what they thought was an ancient relic. "How long until they're in range to transmit the defense codes to Earth?" Marcus asked, rerouting power to damaged shield sections. 15 minutes at current speed. However, they appear to be attempting to establish a long-range communication link now. Not happening. Marcus activated his latest modification, a massive communication jamming field that he built using salvaged parts from the scout ships. The Archean fleet's transmission attempts died instantly. Admiral Krell's voice came through again, now showing signs of worry. "What are you? This station was supposed to be dead. You should have checked more carefully before leaving me here," Marcus replied, targeting another cruiser. "I've had time to make some improvements." The battle continued, a deadly dance of energy weapons and tactical maneuvers. The station's defenses held, but the constant attacks were taking their toll. Power levels began to drop as the shield generators worked overtime. "Guardian, how much longer?" "Coalition fleet arrival in 20 minutes. Station power reserves at 60% and falling. Enemy fleet has lost 14 ships, but maintains significant combat capability." Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead. He needed to do something unexpected, something the Archeans wouldn't be prepared for. His eyes fell on the engineering console, and suddenly he had an idea. "Guardian, remember how we modified the old fuel processing systems for hydroponics? What if we reversed the process? Dump all our fuel reserves into the main reactors." The eye was silent for a moment, calculating. Warning: such action would create an unprecedented power surge. Station systems may not be able to contain it, but it would give us enough power for one massive attack. Affirmative. However, the risk of system failure is significant. Another volley of Archean weapons rocked the station. Marcus made his decision. Do it. Route all the power to the main weapon array. The station's lights dimmed as power was diverted. The fuel processors, which had been growing food for Marcus, now pumped their remaining fuel into the reactor cores. Energy readings spiked to levels that shouldn't have been possible. Power surge in 10 seconds, Guardian announced. Recommend targeting the enemy fleet's center mass for maximum effect. Marcus targeted the Archean command carrier and the ships around it. If he could take out their leadership. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The station released its power in one massive burst. A beam of pure energy, larger than anything Marcus had seen before, erupted from the main weapon array. It cut through space like a blade of light, tearing through multiple Archean ships before they could even attempt to evade. When the light faded, the center of the Archean fleet was gone. The command carrier and 12 other ships had been vaporized. The remaining vessels, their formations shattered, began to break away. Energy reserves critical, Guardian reported. Shield power minimal. Weapon systems offline. But it didn't matter anymore. On the long-range sensors, Marcus could see the Coalition fleet arriving. Dozens of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons ready. They had received his warning after all. The remaining Archean ships fled, their invasion plans in ruins. As Coalition ships surrounded the station, Marcus received a transmission from their commander. Unknown station. This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Coalition. Identify yourself. Marcus took a deep breath. Admiral, this is Marcus Reed. I have evidence of an Archean invasion plan, proof of spies in our ranks, and the story of how this station helped save Earth. Request permission to transfer aboard and make a full report. There was a pause. Then, Marcus Reed, the engineer accused of sabotage on the Stellar Dawn. The same, though as you can see, those accusations were false. The response was immediate this time. Permission granted. And Mr. Reed, I think you have one hell of a story to tell. Marcus looked around the command center, his home for the past months. The station had saved his life, and in return, he had helped it serve its purpose one last time. Guardian, begin data transfer to the Coalition flagship. Send them everything we have. He stood up, stretching tired muscles. And thank you for helping me turn this prison into something more. It was my pleasure, Marcus, the AI responded. The station is yours, whenever you wish to return. Marcus smiled. They had left him here to die, but instead, he had found his true purpose. The abandoned station had become a fortress, and its defender had become a hero. As he prepared to leave, Marcus took one last look at the command center. He would be back. There were still secrets here to uncover, systems to improve, and who knew what other threats might come from deep space. The station would be ready, and so would he.